Lisa Weber, Lisa Klein, and Jane Lee. And, okay. All right. House Bill 866 is primary and secondary education, health and safety guidelines, procedures, and digital devices. And Madam Chair, it's my third time in front of you this week, and on committee, it's great to see you again and again. The purpose of the bill is requiring the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, in consultation with the State Department of Education, to develop health and safety guidelines and procedures for the use of digital devices in public school classrooms. We're requiring each county board of education to implement certain health and safety guidelines and procedures for the use of digital devices in public school classrooms beginning in a certain school year, generally related to health and safety guidelines procedures for digital devices. The use of digital devices in the schools is a concern because of the harmful effects of blue light that is emitted. The blue light comes from the computer screens, Chromebooks, and other handheld devices that we feel are detrimental to the eye, and you'll see some evidence here as we move forward. This bill will direct the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, in consultation with the state, to develop medically sound classroom guidelines. This will help protect the students and prevent risks posed by the daily use of these devices. I guess as we started looking at digital devices when we were kids, we thought, boy, wouldn't it be great to give computers to every kid? And that is a worthy cause. However, I don't know about you all, but when I was a kid, we were always warned about watching TV and what it could do to our eyes, and that's what the doctors used to tell us when we went to get there. So in our attempts to really give our kids a better education, I think we might have looked a little bit past this type of event, if you will, and moved a little too fast. And all we're asking here is that the department come through with some specific guidelines that will keep our kids and our child's health. Thank you.
Cindy Eckert.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for hearing this bill. My name is Cindy Eckhart, and I have a little bit of dual testimony. I wanted to show the committee a little video, and then it will give you a good idea, I think, of what we're talking about. So I'm just going to, the IT department for the General Assembly is wonderful, and they've already put this on the desktop for us.
In adults and children alike, long periods of staring at screens may induce severe eye strain and contribute to myopia or nearsightedness.
You know, there is an increasing rate of nearsightedness around the world. We stare at something up close for hours and hours. Your eye muscles have to focus at that near range, and that can be fatiguing. The other thing is dryness. And when you're not blinking, when we're on computers, our blink rate can decrease by up to 50%. And when you're not blinking and you're staring and your eyes are wide open, those tears evaporate very quickly. You get dry spots that can cause blurred vision. It can cause redness, pain.
Sitting with improper posture or with a monitor that is too close or misaligned frequently leads to neck and back pain. Staring at computer screens in the last hours before sleep can inhibit the production of the hormone melatonin. Sleeplessness resulting from suppressed melatonin may heighten anxiety and reduce cognitive function and contribute to chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, depression, diabetes, and depressed immune response. But apart from these conditions, children alone face another grave risk from unregulated exposure to bright display screens.
Did you know these electronics are emitting a very dangerous blue light?
A new report says that the light that they emit could damage your eyes.
The blue light coming from those screens can be dangerous for growing eyes.
Unfiltered, high-energy visible light or blue light can cause permanent damage to retinal pigment epithelial cells and photoreceptors.
Blue light is a very bad player. It damages the retina and causes macular degeneration.
Here is the reason children are especially susceptible to blue light's damaging effects. We are all born with clear lenses in our eyes that do not filter blue light and allow it to travel all the way to the retina in the back of the eye. As we grow older, our lenses acquire a yellow-brown tint called ocular lens pigment. OLP enhances our vision and filters out blue light.
Chairman Kaiser, Vice Chair Turner, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Goodfellow, an Associate Professor at the Illinois College of Optometry, and I wanted to commend you on all the work that you've done to develop and to consider legislation that may help students in Maryland with digital devices in the classroom. I think it appears that you've been well educated on the facts of how many hours kids are spending on these devices, and I commend you for looking at opportunities to at least consider the impact on these devices for children. So I heartily support HB 866, and I encourage you to pass this good legislation for Maryland kids. Thanks.
I hope that gives everybody a sense of what we're facing in our classrooms. Before I begin, I'd really like to thank, of course, Delegate Arentz and the members in this room who have co-sponsored the bill. Delegates Eric Ebersol, April Rose, Haven Shoemaker, and Jimmy Tarlow. Thank you very much. They have joined Delegate Arentz, our hero, making a total of 26 members in the House of Delegates, representing nearly every county, to safeguard Maryland students from well-documented avoidable harm.
Excuse me, but I'm going to only give you 1 minute to finish up because the video was more than 3 minutes, okay?
I'm sorry, that was not what we were told. I'm happy to just cut to the chase.
Okay.
The bottom line is this. The schools are asking our children to use hazardous devices every day. There are no safety guidelines in place. This bill puts those safety guidelines in place, and it puts the direction of those safety and health guidelines in the hands of doctors. That's why MedChi, the State Medical Society, is endorsing this bill. So is the Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Best of all, HB 866 is free of charge. Legislative Services reports in its fiscal policy note that there is no cost associated with the passage of this bill. Students are protected from permanent harm. Teachers are protected from additional liability because it's their responsibility to have a safe classroom free of known hazards. And so, as we've heard today, this is a win-win. I also would like to draw
Could you summarize, please?
Yes, I'd like to draw your attention to the earlier testimony about gambling. It is not just vision that this bill addresses. It's not just vision that we're talking about with the health. It's their musculoskeletal development, as well as anxiety, depression, and yes, addiction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Weber.
Yes. Good afternoon, delegates. I'm Leslie Weber, a co-founder of Advocates for Baltimore County Schools. We're the largest public education advocacy coalition in Baltimore County with nearly 2,000 members. ABC Schools is asking for your support for HB 866. We are not anti-tech. We understand there's a place for technology in schools, but we know that technology has to be used safely and judiciously to protect children. OSHA has had computer-related safety standards in place for decades. Schools are children's places of work, and in our digitally transformed classrooms across the state, students are now facing the same potential hazards as adults, perhaps more because their bodies and minds are still developing. Professionally developed, research-based, and age-appropriate classroom guidelines for the safe use of digital devices in schools are needed for all Maryland schools, but are especially needed in Baltimore County, where one of the nation's largest one-to-one digital initiatives is underway. Unlike most districts in the country, our digital transformation began in elementary schools. This means that children as young as 5 are having curriculum delivered to them via computer software and are therefore spending every day on a digital device. At home, there's homework and very likely time spent gaming or using social media. This adds up to a lot of screen time, greatly surpassing the 2-hour limit recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. We can't control what children do in their free time, but can ensure that the schoolhouse is a safe place for them to be. Passage of this bill, which enjoys bipartisan support, will prove Maryland to be a national leader in school safety, since we believe it's the first bill of its kind in the nation. Children must be protected from the well-documented harmful effects of misused or overused digital devices. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Klein.
Yes, hi there. My name is Lisa Klein, and I'd like to thank you all for including me in this important conversation. I'm here today from Gaithersburg, Maryland, where I serve as a PTA co-president at my son's elementary school. I get a lot of feedback from parents. I'm kind of a human suggestion box. Mostly good things, but a lot of the negative comments come around the Chromebooks. Viewing of inappropriate content, pornography most recently, accidentally and on purpose, have happened in our classrooms. Headaches, eye strain, dizziness come to the nurse frequently. Many homes are complaining that their kids are suffering from digital addiction, and the schools aren't helping with that. One parent said, "You know, they didn't even ask me. They just put my kid in front of a Chromebook. He's 6 years old. We don't do that at home." Another parent said her kids get to sit cross-legged in the classroom with laptops on their lap, and they work there for hours a day. That violates the FCC safety warnings that say to keep the device 8 inches from your body. Parents say the device shortens their child's attention span and their ability to interact. I don't have to read and tell you about all the double-blind, peer-reviewed studies to validate their observations. I think you know and I know they're right. One parent asked me, "Why do kids need to hunch over a computer to learn and take tests? What's wrong with blue books and number 2 pencils?" Well, it's a good question, and it's a lot cheaper, isn't it? Well, that same day, my son came home and said a child was so nervous about taking the PARCC exam on his Chromebook, he threw up all over it. And he wasn't the only one. There were 3 that day that did that, and I pity the IT department to have to clean them. Well, the point is that young kids and computers may not be the best combination. It's time, through this legislation, HB 866, that we make computers in school kid-friendly, especially now as Montgomery County considers allowing elementary schoolers to bring phones to school and use them unsupervised on the bus. A steel enclosure, mind you, that the American Association of Pediatrics warns amplifies RF radiation exposure. This is wrong. It is time for this bill. HB 866 fills the gap between the kids and the IT department. Chief technology officers like ours are plugging in the kids without knowing how it impacts their health. Not that I blame them, they're not doctors. Years ago, I participated in a medical study. My daughter died of leukemia, sadly. And the research I have learned about pediatric leukemia is staggering. All the environmental factors that contribute to killing cells, DNA damage. It's real and it's out there. And we can't see it all. But I will tell you that Wi-Fi radiation is on the same list with benzene, DEET, and lead. And those aren't welcome in our classroom either. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Jane Lee?
Yes. Good afternoon, delegates. I'm here representing the PTA Council of Baltimore County. It's 150 local PTAs and 30,000 members. I'm not going to read you our letter. You have that before you. You don't need me to read it. What I'm going to go over, and they've already told you, the effects of the vision, the effects of screen time on the learning process, but there's also the screen time effect on the psychological development of a child. We are starting, especially in Baltimore County, we have one-on-one computers or tablets for our youngest children. Many of them without guidelines are on those tablets nearly the entire day. There is no guideline, there is no regulation of how long. Pediatric studies have shown 2 hours. Some of these kids are on there over 5. This means that what's lacking is their ability to interact in social situations, their interpersonal relationships, their ability to work with peers. This is very concerning to our parents. They're concerned about the vision problems. That won't show up till later in life. But right now, their children aren't learning how to relate to each other. This leads us to a problem down the road. We're going to have problems with children. We know what happens with people that don't relate and don't develop relationships. Then we're going to have court problems later in life. These children should have technology, but that technology needs to be integrated with their safety. And we're asking for guidelines to be made by the professionals, not by us, so that our children are safe 10, 20 years down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.